This winter, a Heartstopper novella by award-winning author Alice Oseman. Time to pretend we're a perfect family. Charlie Francis Spring, age 15. Charlie. Nick Nelson. Happy Christmas, you. XXXX. Happy Christmas. I love you loads. Go to sleep, you mug. I love you loads too. Charlie Spring. Oliver's waking Victoria up with the musical Christmas card I bought him. I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm awake too. Oh, how the tables turn. Nick Nelson. This has to be the latest I have ever woken up on Christmas Day. Charlie Spring. When is your new puppy arriving? Nick Nelson. My man just brought him around. He's a pug. Charlie Spring. Screaming. Nick Nelson. I'm dead. Charlie Spring. Unfair. Nick Nelson. Another reason for you to come over later. Charlie Spring. The pug is now the only reason. Nick Nelson. Stop texting me, loser. Go be sociable. Charlie Spring. Frown face. Nick Nelson. Heart. Charlie Spring. A dog is for life. Not just for Christmas. Nick Nelson. Dog is life. Charlie Spring. Ball is life. Nick Nelson. That's what Henry the Pug said. Charlie Spring. You named it Henry? Nick Nelson. Yep. Charlie Spring. That's a name for a train, not a dog. Nick Nelson. Have you been watching Thomas the Tank Engine with Oliver again? Charlie Spring. Maybe. Nick Nelson. Nerd. Charlie Spring. You love it. Nick Nelson. Yes, your interest in trains turns me on greatly. Charlie Spring. Screenshotted for future reference. Nick Nelson. Go and socialize, you absolute train nerd. Charlie Spring. Hey, can I come over earlier than I said I would? Nick Nelson. Yeah, of course. What's up? You okay? Charlie Spring. Yeah, family's just being a bit annoying. I'm the novelty gay mentally ill cousin. Nick Nelson. Oh, Char. You don't want to just stick it out with Tori for a bit? Charlie Spring. She can't really do anything to help, to be honest. I can just come over later if you're busy. Nick Nelson. It's busy, but Jesus, I could do with a break. Seriously, it's fucking chaos in this house. Mum's down. Two, two bottles of Merlot and put the Michael Bublé Christmas album on. There are old people dancing in the lounge. Feel free to come over whenever. I need a break from the madness. Charlie Spring. Okay, I'll leave in a bit. Nick Nelson. You okay though? Charlie Spring. I'm fine. I'm quite aware that it's my fault that my family are annoyed with me. So I guess the best way to sort that out is to just go away completely. I'm usually in favor of sorting things out when I have a problem, but I think this is one of those things that I just can't fix. There have been a lot of things like that lately. I also know I'm a hypocritical piece of shit. I complain a lot. I complain all the time about people feeling sorry for me, but I still manage to be as dramatic as possible. Running away to my boyfriend's house on Christmas Day, trying not to cry and or ruin Christmas for everyone. What the hell are people supposed to do when I act like this? Why do uh when I act like this? Way to live up to my crazy person stereotype. I know Tori's trying her best to help. I feel kind of bad for running out on her like that. Out of everyone in my family, she's probably being the most genuinely helpful, and I seriously do appreciate her. She doesn't pester and she doesn't avoid the issue, which my parents are absolutely, which my parents are apparently pros at. Uh, I don't feel like a maniac when I'm talking to her. Okay, sorry. My therapist, Geoff, said I shouldn't call myself a maniac or a crazy person because I'm not. I know I'm not. I guess sometimes it feels good to exaggerate. I am doing better. I'm not lying about that. I get that spending a few weeks in a psych ward sounds like the most horrifying thing ever to some people. I guess I've heard horror stories about some places that treat patients really badly. But for me, it was exactly what I needed. I got to start therapy properly. I got to meet other people my age who have eating disorders. I had a team of people assigned to help me start working towards recovery. And it made me realize that my coping mechanisms, the restrictive, the restrictive eating, the self-harm, and my other compulsions, are just that, coping mechanisms. It's not about just stopping myself doing those things. It's just It's about figuring out why I feel those impulsions or impulses. What the emotional stuff is underneath. While there'll be good days and bad days, I can get better. God, now I sound like Geoff. And I think today is turning out to be one of the bad days. Nick lives in a detached house a couple of streets away. He told me his family always have these giant Christmas parties with like 100 people, and he wasn't joking. The front door is open. People's voices echo from every window. There are flashing lights coming from the living room, and I can feel the bass vibrations through my feet. It's a wonder they haven't been reported by their neighbors. Since this is our first Christmas as a couple, I was going to drop in for an hour in the evening anyway. Once most of my relatives have entered a wine-induced slumber, but now here I am at only 4 p.m. Charlie Spring. Excuse me. Charlie Spring. I'm outside. I stand and wait on their doorstep. Just walking into the house would probably be a bit awkward, and I doubt anyone would hear the doorbell if I tried to ring it. Luckily, Nick quickly appears at the doorway. He looks at me for a couple of seconds, and then folds his arms. You didn't bring an umbrella. I glance up at the sky. I hadn't even noticed it was raining, but when I looked down at myself, I realized that my clothes are completely soaked. Oh, I say, and look back at him. Hey, he says with a grin. Since, since me and Nick got together in April, a lot of shit has gone down. But despite it all, the ED voice getting louder in the summer, the self-harm relapse in the autumn, Nick has stuck by me and tried to support me however he can. At first, I was scared to tell him about all of my mental health stuff. I thought he might not want to date me anymore. I thought he might not want to date me anymore if he knew. But in actual fact, opening up about that stuff made us stronger as a couple. I know a lot of people think teenage relationships don't last, or they're not as deep as adult relationships. But me and Nick, I think we've got something different. Something great. Hi, I say, and step inside. He shuts the door and turns to face me, his grin gone. He brushes some of my drenched hair out of my eyes. You look like shit, Charles. I let my forehead fall onto his shoulder. Yup. His arms wrap around me instantly and I lift mine to hold him too. And he rests his head against mine, and his hair brushes my ear, and he pulls me against him. We stay like that, in the cold porch, just for a few minutes. without saying anything, without moving, and then he whispers, "You okay?" I say, er, and I start to cry because that's always what happens when people ask me that question. I really don't want him to see me cry because there's been far too much of that recently, and it's Christmas Day. So I try extremely hard not to move from his shoulder. But that doesn't stop him seeing. When he pulls back, the tears are streaming down my face. Sorry, I just had an argument with my mom. I say, trying to sound fine, but obviously not succeeding. Nick looks at me for a moment, concerned. Then he removes a handkerchief from the back pocket of his trousers. The sheer ridiculousness of Nick owning a handkerchief uh, immediately makes me snort out a laugh, which makes him smile too and raise his eyebrows. And I don't stop crying as he methodically wipes my cheeks. And I do stop crying as he methodically wipes my cheeks. Why do you have a handkerchief? I ask. Nick breaks out into a grin, still gently brushing the thing against my face. Owning a handkerchief is cool now. Oh, I haven't been keeping up with current trends. Nick laughs. It's so lovely against the sound of the rain and the low bass of whatever music they're playing in the living room. Okay, maybe. Okay, maybe it was a Christmas present. A Christmas present that I put in my pocket just to prove the just to prove to my nan that I would actually use it. He puts it back into his pocket and then takes my face into both of his hands. And what do you know? I did use it. And what do you know? I did use it. There we go. I smile at him, his hands feeling so warm against my skin. Maybe your nan knows me better than you do. Are you suggesting that you want to date my nan? There, there are so many reasons why I do not want to do that. Good. He hugs me again, his arms reaching round my waist. Thought I had some competitive competitive thought I had some competition. Thought I had some competition for a minute there. You don't have any competition, I say, running my hands up to his shoulders, wanting to just stay here for forever with him in the porch, live here in the cold with the rain falling next to us, make a bed out of the coats and a fire out of the coat rack. You smooth little bastard, he says, leaning in with a smile, and I meet him with a kiss that turns into a longer kiss than either of us planned, but everything is suddenly far too nice for it to end. I run a hand through his hair, and he pulls my hips against his, and our lips brush as he changes direction, and for a brief moment, it actually feels like Christmas. I assume this is your boyfriend then? Nick and I jolt apart and turn to find that we've drawn an audience of at least 7 family members of varying ages. Gonna introduce us, mate, continues the guy who just spoke. Possibly an uncle or an older cousin. Oh yeah, Nick replies, still in a daze. He moves behind me and pushes me further into his house, with his hands on my shoulders, towards his family, who seem to be multiplying in numbers as more people walk through the hallway and realize that I've arrived. So this is Charlie. A good half an hour is spent introducing me to every single member of Nick's family, who for some reason all want to meet me. Everything is, oh, so this is Charlie then. And nobody asks any awkward questions about hospital or how I found Christmas dinner or anything like that. Throughout most of this, I'm crying the new Nelson family puppy, Henry, who is the tiniest and palest pug puppy I have ever seen. Henry falls asleep in my arms, and I fall immediately in love with him. Nick's other dog, a border collie named Nellie, trails along behind us, occasionally bopping her nose against my leg. I wish my parents let me have pets. Nick's mom still has her cracker hat on, and even though I've seen her numerous times since I came home, she gives me a hug, lasting at least 10 seconds longer uh, than is socially acceptable. I don't really mind, though. After that, Nick drags me up to his room so I can change clothes, despite my protests that I don't mind staying in my soaked jeans. As I'm changing, Nick's lounging on his big double bed. He's wearing his usual old jeans, but with them he's got on his bright red jumper with reindeer patterns on it. It's disgusting and absolutely hilarious. I like your jumper, I say, as I'm doing my belt up. It's very sexual. Nick looks down, as if he'd forgotten what he was wearing. Oh yeah, he says. I know, right? He looks up at me and waggles his eyebrows. So so seduc seductive, whatever the heck, seductive. I pick up my damp jeans off I pick up my damp jeans from the floor, chuck them at his face, and laugh as he dramatically rolls off his bed in an attempt to catch them. I like your jumper, he says. I like your jumper, he says, after crawling back onto his bed, a small smile playing on his lips. Whoever picked that out has proper taste. I'm momentarily confused and then realize I'm wearing Nick's navy Adidas jumper. I borrowed it a few months back and then forgot to give it back. Look, boyfriend jumpers are the best, okay? Big, comfy, and they smell good. Oh, oops, I say. I inspect myself in the mirror. Nick's jeans pretty much the same as mine, but several sizes larger. Look ridiculous on me. I groan heavily. I look like a 90s boy band member. Nick appears behind me. He's not actually that much taller than me. He's just broader, which is great from like an aesthetic perspective, but not from a clothes sharing perspective. Well, it's this or joggers, and I guarantee my mom will have something to say if you turn up to our Christmas party in joggers. I think joggers would make me look even more like a member of the Backstreet Boys. Nothing wrong with the Backstreet Boys. Nick meets my eye in the mirror. We stay silent for a moment, and then he takes my hand, so I turn to face him. You okay? He says. Do you want to talk about it? I know I probably should. I should explain about the argument with Mum and all the arguments we've had over the past few weeks. I should explain how difficult it is to keep trying to do better when there are so many people who just refuse to understand how hard it is. I should explain that I barely slept last night because I was so anxious about dinner, and even though I actually did quite well, I still felt like everyone was watching me, waiting for me to fuck up and ruin the day. But it's so much easier to just not think about it. I just wanted to have a nice day, I say, and I feel myself welling up again. Okay, he says, slinging an arm around, slinging an arm around my shoulders and walking me out of his room, then kissing me on the top of the head. Let's do that then. Oh, all right, Charlie. Half an hour later, Nick's gone to the loo, and I'm suddenly facing David, Nick's older brother, By 4 years. While I'm drinking a glass of water in the kitchen, David's not really like Nick in any way except for their identical dark blonde hair. David's a lot shorter. Shorter than me, actually. And completely up himself. He goes to a posh university and hangs out with lots of private school guys who do rowing and wear quilted jackets. He has been known to boast about cheating on his girlfriends. Nick and David don't really like each other, and I don't think David likes me very much either. When Nick came out to him as bisexual, David laughed and told him he was just covering up being gay. Hey, I say. He grabs a beer bottle from the fridge. It's definitely not his first. So you all cured? So you all cured and stuff, man? He says. Uh, this is possibly the most ridiculous question I've received all day. Well, that's not really how it works, but I'm doing better, thanks. Oh, ace. He takes a swig of beer and stares at me like I'm a zoo animal. How are you? I ask, purely out of there not being anything else to say. Oh, I'm really good, thanks. Yeah, he says. Uni work, rowing, work hard, play hard, mate. Cool. So what's happening with you now? You allowed back at school yet? Allowed? Everything about him irritates me. I'm going back next term, I say. Oh, nice, nice. He takes another swig. So, like, I'm super interested. What's it like in a mental hospital? Did you meet any really crazy? I stand there, silent. 'Cause, like, he continues. I was watching this documentary on, uh, schizophrenia the other day, and literally, it's the fucking awful in it. All that talking to yourself and stuff, and these people, they had to be locked up to stop them hurting themselves. My grip on my glass tightens. I could just leave. Well, I don't have schizophrenia, frenia, whatever the heck. And documentaries like that are designed to horrify you and sensationalize mental illness, particularly Jesus, less socially acceptable illness like schizophrenia, whatever the heck. David blinks. Oh yeah, man, obviously. But you must have to meet You must have met people like that, surely in that place. Well, actually, the place I was at was mainly for people with eating disorders. So, just fucking crazy, isn't it? So fucking sad. Sure, must have been fucking awful to not want to eat anything as well, mate. Sounds crap. I don't say anything. Like, did you ever get so hungry that you just had to eat something? That's what I don't get. Like, the people who just stop eating and die, you know? And then Nick walks into the room. By the look on his face, he's obviously heard David's last comment. And it probably doesn't help that I shoot him a look of severe distress. Are you done interrogating my boyfriend, David? He asks he asks not politely. David frowns and holds out his hands. Mate, we were just having a chat. Do you seriously think Charlie wants to listen to your fucking ignorant views on Christmas Day? Nick snaps, and it's been a while since I've seen him get this angry. What the fuck? David snorts and takes a sip of beer. Alright, alright, calm your tits. Fucking hell. Nick puts his arm around me and walks us out of the kitchen and down the hallway. Once we're out of earshot, he says, he's such an insensitive, insensitive, insensitive little prick. It's fine. It's not. Nick's right. It's not fine. I should have defended myself better. I'm tired, though. I'm so tired of defending myself. Sorry, I mumble. I should have argued back. Nick shakes his head. No, it's him who should be sorry. You shouldn't have to argue with people about this. Nick leads us into the alcove by the garage door. His arm drops, but his hands find mine. I've talked to Geoff a lot about people like David. Unhelpful people. When people know you're mentally ill, most people either want to ignore it completely or they treat you like you're strange, scary, or fascinating. Very few people are actually good at the middle ground. The middle ground isn't hard. It's just being there, being helpful if help is needed, being understanding even if they don't understand anything. Thanks, I say, and kiss Nick gently. Nick's good at the middle ground. My parents aren't, really, but I know they're trying, and occasionally they succeed. And they're better at it than David, that's for sure. Tori's good at the middle ground too. Maybe I was a bit harsh on her earlier. Nick and I look at each other for a moment in the shade for Nick and I look at each other for a moment in the shade of the alcove. Today's been shit, I say eventually, letting out a small laugh. Nick smiles sadly. Yeah, I got that impression. He squeezes my hands. Want to talk about it? I pause to think. Maybe a bit later? He squeezes my hands again. Yeah, of course. Can we go cuddle, Henry? I feel like I'm missing out on valuable puppy appreciation time. Nick grins. An excellent idea. When Nick said it was chaos in his house, he meant it. After some dog playtime with Henry and Nellie, we find a proper disco going on in the living room and a rather enthusiastic game of toy car racing happening in the hallway. With people's shoes as obstacles, after a, a rather if enthusiastic game of toy car racing happening in the hallway with people's shoes as obstacles. After I beat Nick 5 times at that, we somehow get dragged into a game of Monopoly, which is promptly ruined when Henry gallops over the board, followed by a Mario Kart tournament with Nick's older cousins, which I also win. Apparently, I'm good at driving games. Then we go back to Nick's room to exchange presents. I got him a bunch of things he likes. A grid paper notebook, a grid paper notebook and a fountain pen. A fisheye lens that attaches to his phone. And a giant Oreo dirty milk bar. Nick got me some fancy headphones, way fancier than my current ones, um, that are broken in one ear. And we also got each other the most stupidly romantic cards ever. His has pictures of us all over it, and I drew all over mine. I kiss him after I read his card, and he kisses me back, and basically we end up making out for like half an hour. And suddenly, it's 7 o'clock, and we're sitting on the living room sofa with Doctor Who on in the background. My legs resting over his, and his head on my shoulder. Some kids are sitting on the carpet, building a Lego pirate ship, and Nick's mum and various aunts and uncles are busy organizing the buffet tea on the dining table. I'm about to fall asleep when I hear Nick's voice. Char, just so you know, your phone has been making sounds for the past 5 minutes. Oh, I sit up a little, and Nick does too. A sleepy smile on his face. I withdraw my phone from my pocket to find the screen covered in unread texts. The messages are all from Tori. Nick leans in to read them too. Victoria Spring. Hey, when are you coming home? Please reply to me. At least just tell me when you're coming home. Mom and Dad are kind of upset and I don't think they're gonna shout at you. Mom and Dad are kind of upset, and I Mom and Dad are kind of upset. I don't think they're gonna shout at you. Shout at you. I think Mom's sorry, to be honest. Oliver wants to know when you're coming home. He wants to play Mario Kart. Can't believe you left me alone with Clara, you fucking twat. If you don't reply soon, I'm literally gonna walk to Nick's and get you. I'm not even joking. Charlie? 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 Seriously. Okay. Okay, right. I'm walking to Nick's. Nick doesn't say anything, but I can tell he wants to. I instantly feel like shit. I've had a bad day, sure, but I shouldn't have taken that out on Tori. I should have stuck with her for at least a little longer. I should probably go home, I say. Nick runs his fingers through my hair. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want me to go home, but he still says, yeah. Neither of us make a sign of moving. He looks at me with his big brown eyes, and he doesn't have to say anything. I know he wants me to open up to him, to just get it all out. Today's been Today's just been really hard, I begin, and Nick takes my hand while I tell him everything. I tell him about my arguments, about the stress and the sleeplessness, and all my annoying relatives, about how I just wanted to have a normal Christmas day, whatever that is. I know Nick can't fix anything. Even if he could, he shouldn't have to. But just talking about everything eases a bit of the tightness in my chest. I guess a part of me wanted to pretend that this Christmas could just be the same as last Christmas. I say, I can't quite meet his eyes. If I just pretended nothing was different, but everything was just doing the absolute most to make, but everyone was just doing the absolute most to make me feel like a liability. Everyone? Nick asks. Maybe except Tori. She's the only one who's all right. She's the only one who's all right. Like, she's helpful, but she's helpful, but she also just talks to me like normal. I huff out a laugh. Well, Oliver too, I guess. Nick wraps one arm around me. I snuggle onto his shoulder. It sounds like your mom and dad sort of wanted to pretend that this Christmas could be normal, too, he says. I nod. Yeah, that's exactly it. Have you talked to them about it? About what? Like, did you explain that Christmas would be different and you might need a bit? Did you explain that this Christmas would be different and you might need a bit of extra support? I think back. Me and Dad agreed on a meal plan for the day, but apart from that, not really, I mumble. I think sometimes, says Nick. You're so scared of being a burden that it makes you terrified to ask for help. But you have lots of people around you that would be there for you if you opened up about what you need. I look up at him. I love him. God, I love my boyfriend. Now you sound like Geoff, I say, grinning, and he laughs and gives me a little shove. And then I realize that my sister is standing in the living room doorway. Tori obviously forgot to bring an umbrella too. She looks like she just jumped into a river. She's also quite out of breath, meaning she probably jogged here, and she looks angry in that completely silent way of hers. Death stare, eyes, lips clenched together, fists dug into her coat pockets. Firstly, she says, Nick, I refuse to believe that you have this many family members. It's not logical. Uh, Secondly, your disgusting brother. Okay. Firstly, she says, Nick, I refuse to believe that you have this many family members. It's not logical. Secondly, your disgusting your disgusting brother tried to flirt with me again. And I swear to God, if he doesn't, goodness gracious, okay. Okay. Firstly, she says, Nick, I refuse to believe that you have this many family members. It's not logical. Secondly, your disgusting brother tried to flirt with me again, and I swear to God, if he doesn't get the message soon, I'm going to find a fucking. I'm going to find a fucking well and push him into it. Okay. All of the kids building the Lego pirate ship turn around in shock. Tori looks at them and raises her eyebrows. Uh, Mena, Kingley, whatever the heck that word is. Whatever, okay. They quickly turn away again. Nick laughs. Heartily. But Tori's face doesn't change. She looks at me. Thirdly, I think you should come home now. Because if I have to answer one more bloody question, she is so funny. If I have to answer one more bloody question about my school grades, I might do a runner as well, and Dad's already really upset as it is. She moves her weight to her other leg. Also, Oliver's in a bad mood because no one will play Mario Kart with him, and Grandma wants to talk to you about your drumming lessons. And I think, and I think Mom actually might actually be willing to apologize, as wild as that sounds. She slumps into the other end of the sofa, not looking at us, and tilts her head back into the cushions. I have no idea what to say. I move away from Nick and sit next to her. I put my arms around her, and after a few seconds, she leans on my shoulder. I hate Christmas, she says. No, you don't, I say. I hate this one. Everyone hates this one. This whole winter's been a bit shit. Yup. Doctor Who still plays on in the background. Oliver's probably watching it right now. Sorry I ran out, I say. Thank you for coming to get me. She looks at me. Sorry today was shit for you. It's not been all bad. Nick's got a new puppy. Tori snorts. Can you two just get married, buy a house, and get 3 dogs already? Me and Nick laugh. And then the 3 of us sit in silence for a moment. I rest my temple on Tori's hair. I'm going to try harder to say when I need help, I say, and explain how I need help. Is that what Geoff told you to do? Yeah, but then Nick said it as well, and I think they're both right. Good, says Tori, her voice a little softer. I think that would be good. I won't fix anything, I know that. But maybe this whole recovery thing could be a little easier if I reached out to people every now and then. You missed Granddad and Abulo's annual argument, Tori says after a while. What was that about? What was it about this year? Okay. I think it was about antique furniture, but most of Abulo's points were in Spanish, and that's not my area. I need you to commentate. There might be another round later, like last year. Hopefully, it at least stopped Clara trying to get me to describe my ideal man. I laugh. And then she laughs too, and everything's a little bit better, just for a minute or so. Before I get to the ending, I want to read this one more time. Firstly, she says, Nick, I refuse to believe that you have this many family members. It's not logical. Secondly, your disgusting brother tried to flirt with me again, and I swear to God, if he doesn't get the message soon, I'm going to I'm going to find a fucking well and push him into it. That's funny. Okay. So stay tuned for this winter Oliver Jonathan Spring.